Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarim Tovim, and Lila Tov. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carrie. I'm got Brandon coming in here right now. I know that he's going to be probably tagging people to have him come into this discussion with us today. So let me put him on screen. Hold on just a moment here. Oops. I had you on and then I turned you off. Sorry.
It's all right. Can y'all hear me fine?
I hear you just great.
Cool. Good. How are you today?
I'm hurting.
Yeah.
As the day goes on, I'm feeling more of the aches and pains, and I've discovered some bruises and things that I was not aware of yesterday. There was too much adrenaline. There was too much adrenaline going on yesterday, and it was interesting because just for you guys, if you don't know, I was in an accident yesterday, a car accident, and I'm telling you, the spirit was all over this accident, and I'm out of Kleenex, so I brought a roll of toilet paper with me because as I'm talking about it, I'm sure there's going to be some tears. I've been crying for like the last, I don't know, 18 hours, except for when I was sleeping because I passed out yesterday. Last night, I was so exhausted because it was so emotional, but it was such a highly spiritual encounter that I'm still trying to process everything that happened. So I do know that there's an upgrade coming. I mean, because the car's totaled, it's totaled. So an upgrade is coming. I don't know how, but I know that it will manifest. There's not cashola in the pocket to do it, but I still know an upgrade's coming because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
And it was all spirit. It was just all spirit. And here I want to share with this. This is interesting. Yesterday morning, my husband says, "Hey, do you need the cell phone? Can I take it with me today? So when I go to work," because usually I keep it because we only have one between the two of us. And I said, "No, go ahead. I'm not having any conversations. I'm just, going to be doing studying and getting ready for my time with you and my teaching later today." And I said, "Oh, I'll probably go grocery shopping, but I don't need it." Had he not taken the cell phone, there is no way I would have gotten a hold of him. And he had to come get me. And where I went shopping is like an hour away from where we live. Where he was working in the mountains is a half hour away from where we live. So it was an hour and a half drive to come get me. And had he not known, when he got home from work, not knowing where I was, maybe thinking I was still in town, Jesse would have gotten home because I didn't even know Jesse's phone number, right? Because we program all of our phone numbers on the phone. How many people have numbers memorized now? We've gotten so lazy, right? So, had he not taken his phone, I would have been stuck in Hermiston at like 100-degree temperatures until probably 5:30, 6 o'clock at night.
Oh my
And
God.
they would have known what happened to me, and they would have had to come searching for me, not having a clue where I was at. So,
Oh man.
at any rate, so that's how it started out. I mean, the fact that he asked for the cell phone. So I'm like, I'm going like, okay, how did this happen? What are all the little minutiae? What can I say? And the spirit had, first of all, had Ken ask for the cell phone. That's amazing. That like doesn't happen. Second thing that was amazing. I'm coming down 395. I'm in town. And as I'm driving in town, I'm coming in from the north town. I'm heading south. I'm going to go to Safeway to do the last bit of my shopping. And the spirit says to me, "You're going to get in an accident."
Oh wow.
I already knew I was going to get into a car accident because spirit told me. Now, it's not the first time. When I was in another accident quite a few years ago, I was coming over the pass around Mount Hood, and I was with a gentleman I was married to before, John, and we were picking up his kids from the airport. And about 20 minutes before we got in an accident, the spirit told me, "You're going to get in an accident." And 20 minutes later, we hit a cow. It was an open range on the top of the mountain there. And we were coming around the sweeping bend. And just as we were coming around the sweeping bend, the cow stepped out into the right-hand lane and we hit it. And I was in the passenger side. I got pretty bunged up on that one, but I was healed 6 weeks later. The Spirit also told me after the accident that I was going to be healed and I was going to be called out for my healing. And we were going to a conference at Bethel Church down or in California. And so I already knew, and it was bad. My neck injury was very grievous, and I was in a tremendous amount of pain. There was a lot of soft tissue damage. I had a concussion. It was not good. And so when I went to the conference, I don't remember the people that were there, but they were part of the Toronto outpouring, and they were doing a conference at Bethel Church. And so, there was like, I don't know, 25, 30 of us that went to this conference. And that was a lot. That was like half. We were 60 people church. And so half of us went to this conference. And so we knew that, that they always provide time for healing to take place. And there's been a tremendous amount of miracles that have happened through people at that church. And, I've seen miracles happen just praying and watching the Spirit move and seeing lakes grow out and, people get up and that couldn't walk. I mean, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it's real. These things do happen. And, a lot of it is our own faith, but the Spirit had told me I would be healed. And prior to that, I had chiropractor works. I was going to massage therapy. I mean, it was hard. And my business was very much oriented with being a hairdresser, right? Standing on my feet, cutting hair and doing nails and whatnot. I was in so much pain. Just trying to make life work. So when the Spirit said, you're going to get called out for your healing, because I was in prayer one morning because I was hurting so bad and I was just trying to figure out how I was going to make it. I didn't know. I mean, this was like, what is my prognosticate? What is it going to be for the rest of my life with this neck injury like I have? Because the doctor was telling me things I was going to deal with in the future, and I just didn't want to believe it. I'm like, I reject that. So I was praying, and the Spirit said, you're going to be called out. So we get to this conference, and, it comes to a point where we want to pray for people today, and we're going to let the Spirit tell us who needs to be healed. And so they're calling all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden they say, hey, there's somebody out here that has a neck injury and it needs to be taken care of. And so everybody from the church, they're all looking at me like their heads swing around and look at me, and elbows and everything else, like, get out there. And I felt in my spirit, I went, nope, that is not specific enough. That is not specific enough.
Wow.
I was to be called out. Anybody has a neck injury. Anybody. I mean, come on. Neck injuries are so common. They're this dime a dozen. Said I was told I was going to be called out. And so, of course, everybody that's sitting with me and out there is looking at me like I'm a crazy kook because I'm not wanting to go up. And I'm like, it's not specific enough. So about 20 minutes later, he says again one more time, he goes, nope, there's still someone out here that has a neck injury and it's really grievous. And it just recently happened. And the Spirit wants to heal you. And so I knew it was for me. So I ran up and he prayed for me and he asked me what happened. And I told him what happened. And he looked at me. He said, did you forgive that cow? I said, what?
Wow.
He said, did you forgive that cow? And I said, that stupid cow, because obviously I was very offended by that cow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was really offended by it because I was in so much pain for 6 weeks. And he told me a story about a cowboy who got injured by a horse. And he had held a lot of anger and bitter towards his horse. But once he forgave the horse and released it from his anger, his healing manifested, right? So
wow.
The pastor's telling me this, and he looked at me and goes, are you ready to forgive that cow? And of course, I'm crying at this point because I'm feeling what he's saying. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to move my neck again. I don't want to hurt anymore.
Right.
So I forgave the cow and I said, I forgive you. I release you from all harm, because the cow was just doing what the cow does, right? It's just walking.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it was hard because all of his buddies is like, you hear their mournful cries. It's like the cows knew what was going on. This cow lost its life in the process of it, right?
Yeah.
And so, it just gave me something completely different to look at. And as soon as I said that, he started praying for me and I dropped to the floor like a sack of potatoes. I mean, I was out for like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Which is so strange because, when something happens like that, nobody pushed me. There was nothing like that. It wasn't like my ego took over and I'm going to fake something. No, I dropped to the floor like a sack of potatoes and I was out for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to, the pastor just keeps going on, I guess. I mean, because when I came to, things were still going on. I'm going, well, this is a little weird. I'm laying out here in front of everybody and it's like 2,500 people here and I'm just out on the floor. And I got up and my neck, there was no pain. It was instantly gone. And the pastor said, because first I was a little disoriented, like what just happened? And then he asked me, he said, how's your neck feel? And I started thrashing my head back and forth, just thrashing it like crazy. And I'm like, it feels great, so shampoo's going everywhere and I'm jumping up and down and I'm moving my head and there is zero pain. So I get back. Okay, I get back. I was known from that point on in the conference as the cow lady. So nobody asked me my name. I was just the cow lady. Hey, how's the cow lady? Anyway, it just made me laugh because, it's things that happen to us, but there's always a moment for something greater to occur, something for us to learn, some sort of miracle that's waiting to happen, and those are things I'm not going to let go. These are part of my roots in my Christian faith. And I am not going to let go of these things because they are my testimony. They are the testimony of the healing of the goodness of that which is unseen, that is manifesting to be seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It declares the glory of who we are and the power of the Creator working in our life for the greater good. Now, I say that because I was able to share that testimony with these kids that hit me yesterday.
Wow.
And after I did that, I looked at them and I said, I forgive you. Because I learned I wasn't going to have something hold me back or hold a blessing back or have them leave being bound in shame or guilt or fear or whatever it was. I was going to release them so that I could be released.
Wow.
And it was amazing that I could carry that revelation and that beautiful moment of healing that happened to me and to share that with them because they were young. I don't even think they were old enough to drink. I mean, they were newly married, but they were young. They were very, very young. And so that testimony from all those years ago was able to come forward. And the Spirit, I mean, there was so much going on. I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but I am telling you, first of all, I felt bad for them because first of all, I don't want to block emotions. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about too today is that we can't block emotions. Emotions are part of this physical body. Everything is meant to be felt as an experience. So when we don't allow our emotions to flow, right, they get bottled up in us and then they get locked into our DNA and it will surface again. That's what PTSD is. That's what CPTSD is. It will come back around because it needs to be purged. It needs to be released because it blocks up the energy flow through our energy centers. Especially the lower chakras, because that's where all the fear and trauma that all resides in the lower chakras. So knowing this, knowing that the Spirit already told me I was going to get in an accident before it happened, I'm instantly, I go into automated, like I didn't have to think about this. It just happened, right? There was like, oh, you better let this go. You better let it flow. It was, I just allowed me to be me. I allowed the emotions to be, and I wailed. I mean, I wailed. It was loud crying. I wasn't exaggerating it. I was just letting it flow through me because the trauma, the scariness of it, the fact that I was alive, nobody was hurt, and then seeing my car, how foobarred it was, like there's no repairing it. There's no coming back from this one. And that we were all walking and talking, and there was so much emotion. And these poor kids, right? First car accident for them. And I am sitting there wailing away, just wailing away, letting it all flow through me. And then the parents show up. And this man out of nowhere comes over and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he just starts reminding me to breathe. And what have I just recently started adopting? Breathing techniques.
Breath work.
And he just simply is reminding me, slow your breathing down, slow your breathing down. And the next thing you know, we start talking. And then that is when all of that initial stuff got over, the spirit came in. And the next thing you know, we are all embracing one another with hugs like you wouldn't believe. I haven't had bear hugs like this. I probably got between 30 and 50 hugs yesterday from complete strangers who were family in that moment. And you know what was so amazing, Brandon?
Mm.
The ego was not present at all.
Wow.
Because each one of us were concerned about the heart. What was going on in here?
Yeah.
Ego was not present. We didn't even bother asking for 2 hours what each other's names were.
Wow.
Because it didn't matter what our names were. We were human beings who were offering love to one another. Unconditional love. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what the name is. It didn't matter because that's ego.
Yeah.
We were connecting at the heart level.
That's beautiful.
So just 2 more things and then we'll move on from it.
Oh, you're good.
It was so amazing because I told them, I said later when we were processing it, I said, we all passed with flying colors today. We all passed with flying colors today because it was like I said, it was about the heart condition. And spirit nuggets. I couldn't even tell you everything, share out of my mouth the things that spirit was just, it was like something took over in me. It was maybe my higher self kicked in gear, but there was stuff to help console and to bring light. And these kids, I'm hearing them on their phone with other friends and family. They're like, yeah, we got in an accident, but this lady, she's so amazing. She's so awesome. She's so sweet. She's incredible, And I'm not saying that to pat the ego. I'm saying that when we allow the spirit to flow through us, then we become the light to the world.
That's right.
And it was a manifestation of the light that is within us when we work through unconditional love. When we allow the Mashiach, the Christ anointing, to flow through us, and we put ego aside, and ego has nothing to do with it, and it all comes from the heart, what they see is authenticity without the mask. There was no yelling. There was no screaming. Well, maybe a little in my crying, but there was none of that. It was all heartfelt, heart, love, heart. It was all heart. And it was exactly the way it needed to be. To see the fear in their faces and to be able to bring a gentle word and to just give them love and hugs and tell them, I forgive you. Because there was nothing to forgive. Because they probably said, I'm sorry. I'm not exaggerating, at least 50 times. And I finally said, there's nothing to ask forgiveness for because I already forgave you before, really, I forgave him before it even happened because the spirit already told me I was going to get in an accident. So that's just the position that the heart takes. And then it manifested. And so this week has been so difficult because there's been so much projection that has launched forward in my direction. But it has been so beautiful for the introspection work to see, am I, as I am, really manifesting that which I believe in my heart to be true?
Yeah.
And this was the icing on the cake. So to finish this up, I had strangers. I had a woman. Well, I was sitting there. So after the cops came and they did their whole thing and the other family left because they were able to drive their car away. It was a big SUV. My little Subaru had no chance in hell. So they were able to drive theirs away. I'm sitting there. The tow truck came. I'm sitting on my ice chest of my groceries in the Rite Aid parking lot all by myself. And it's hotter than the hubs of hell. It's 100 degrees. I've already gone through all my water. And I'm like, I don't want to leave my stuff here, And of course, that probably was ego. But I thought I'm going to have to ask somebody to go get me water. And so I waited and a woman pulled up in a car and I just said, excuse me, ma'am. I said, can I give you some money to go grab me a water? And I told her about the accident. Of course, she comes out with the water. And what does she do? She gives me a great big bear hug. And then she wants to see how she can assist me. Do you need any food? And I'm like, no, I just went grocery shopping. I got all the food I need right now. I just need a car.
Right.
I just need a car. I need a way home. But my husband's coming to get me. And so we had a beautiful exchange. And then a woman shows up. Now, okay, so half hour later, I'm sitting there. I'm out of water again. And this woman pulls up. She backs up her car into the shade and she comes walking straight to me. She wasn't going to Rite Aid. She was coming to see me. And she beelines it. I just happen to look and she looks straight eye to eye. And she goes, "Are you okay?" She saw the accident earlier. And she came back to check on me.
Wow.
So I know the Spirit sent her back. And she was this beautiful woman. Just like her heart was so full of love. And she wanted to make sure I was okay. She was just reminding me. We had a beautiful exchange. And we talked about having an upgrade that was all purposed and it was all planned. And then she just put her hand on my cheek. And she says, "Just remember it's okay. And when you go home, cry some more. You need to release this." So she was reminding me what I was telling the kids. And she came back. She was drawn back by Spirit just to make sure I was okay. I saw such a beautiful side of humanity yesterday, and I thought, this is it. This is the practical application of how unconditional love works. It didn't make a difference. Nobody cared. It was like, at the end, it was the after effect. What's your name? It didn't matter because we saw at the heart level. We connected at the heart level. She didn't ask me if I was Democrat or Republican. She didn't even ask me if I went to church. I mean, it was already understood because you could feel the Spirit.
Yeah.
She didn't care which denomination or the fact that I don't go to a church anymore and that I'm not affiliated with any denomination, because it was all about love and connecting at the heart level. So I saw humanity for something that was beautiful. And the last thing I want to share is before the kids left, before they were able to take their car to a mechanic and everything, and my car had already been towed away, the son, the young husband, came up to me and he looked at me and he goes, "Hi." That's a little strange. We've been talking for 2 hours. Why are you saying hi? He goes, "Hi, can I give you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can give me something." And he held out his hand and he put in my hand this necklace right here.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's a cross with a goldfish on it and a diamond.
Oh, wow.
They had come from North Dakota for a funeral for their great-grandmother, the matriarch of the family. This was hers.
Oh, wow.
And she was like a strong believer. Her whole life was based upon her faith. And she taught her children. And she taught her family. And he looked at me and he goes, "This was part of her jewelry. And then we really feel that she would want you to have it because of how you handled yourself today."
Wow, that's beautiful.
And it's interesting because it's silver and gold. And silver and gold represent mother and father. And fish in Hebrew is Dalet Gimel. It's the door to gather and assemble teachings that will ripen and wean you and mature you. So in that moment, it was like the Spirit was saying through these kids, "You did it. You showed a mature vessel of unconditional love to these kids who it was their first accident. This wasn't your first rodeo, and it could have been handled so much differently." And the Spirit was so all over it.
Wow.
The testimony of how love wins. Love triumphs over everything. And if we just take a moment and get outside of ourselves and get out of our ego and take a look at the situation and the hearts that are involved, the beauty that can come out of something that would be seen as ashes. It was the death of my car and we don't have a way to replace it. And I don't know even insurance what they're going to do for it because it's an old car. It's an old Subaru. It was all that we could afford. And, I don't have anything I can't replace it. At least not right. But I know an upgrade's coming, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
But it was more than that. It was like we all looked at it and it was like, hey, this is just stuff. These are just things. The most important thing is that we're all here. We're all okay. We're walking. We're talking. None of us are bleeding. Yeah, I'm sore today, but whatever. That'll heal. It was more about the heart connect, and we all saw it, and we all took advantage of this chance moment, this chance encounter, this suddenly that happened. And guaranteed, if I'm thinking about it today, I am sure they are as well, because it was one of the most beautiful exchanges I've had in my entire life. And it was intended. It was purpose. There was no, oh my God, a freak accident. No, it was intended to be this way, because this whole week was about seeing where we are at. So if we've had stuff rising up in us, it's to check to see if that which is within is the same thing that our mouth speaks. Are you truly what you say you are? Are you truly what you say through the mouth that you speak? If you say I am, do your actions line up with I am? Because I am is eye, which is haya, to be, to come to pass. It has an aleph added to the prefix of it. Does oneness proceed out of your mouth? Does oneness, is that seen by everyone else that comes into your circle? Because guaranteed, if it doesn't, you are going to be tested until that which you claim is that which you are, because you became it. Words are hollow. Actions and deeds speak much louder than empty words. So this week was all about that for me. And that's why I wanted to talk about this. And I know we've already talked, it's been a half hour that I've been sharing this story, but I can see the profound effects personally, and hoping that it will be able to do something to share that with others, for us to be able to take a look at and to realize that these testings, this light that's coming in, all of this stuff that is surfacing, and the world is going to reflect back at you what is within you.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that the world is the prophet.
Wow. That's definitely something to think about right there. I haven't ever looked at it like that.
I hadn't either. But when you take a look at the word in Hebrew, nabi, nun bet yod, it speaks of the seed of life is the spiritual path on the inside that produces power. And we already know that through reflection, through mirror, that everything that is within you, you manifest externally. So if you actually slow down and you take a look at what's happening externally around you, it's going to reflect back at you prophetically, declaring that which you are back at you, right? Because one of the gifts of prophecy is being able to, get God information about someone, like telling them where they live, their address, or what they had last night for dinner, or something that they happened in their childhood, because that gets people's attention, right? All of a sudden, you're like your experience with the black man coming in us room when you were at the revival conference, and it connected to something that happened to you with the Hopi Indians, right? That was an exact moment, God moment, that you were able to recognize, because this black man that spoke to you had no idea about what happened with the Hopi. He was just being obedient to that which the Spirit put in his heart to share with you, and he didn't know you from Adam.
Nope.
He just knew that you were part of mankind, and that there was a word for you if you were willing to receive it. So the world is that way to us. It declares where we are at. It prophesies to us every day if we take the time to stop and look and listen and hear through our spiritual eyes and our ears and our heart. What is it declaring to you? Are you seeing anger, frustration, pain, and suffering? Well, guess what? That's what you have on the inside. Do you see manifested shalom with people who you just had a car accident with? Because that's what I saw yesterday.
Wow.
It was prophesying to me, saying, you found shalom within, so now it's going to be manifested without. And something that could have been so horrible, there could have been yelling and screaming. There was none of that. It was nothing but love and peace.
That's beautiful.
So that's all I want to say about that. That was exactly 30 minutes and 30 seconds. 33, the number for the Mashiach anointing. How funny.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. I know you had messaged me last night, and said something about it, but we didn't talk about it before this video at all. Other than you just messaged me, letting me know that you were a little sore and everything, and you would let me know this morning how you were feeling and whether we were or were not going to do this today, based dependent upon how you were feeling. That's all I knew. So like, I really appreciate you sharing that, and it's those little testimonies, man, that are so awesome because it's just encouraging. It's encouraging each other. It's encouraging to me. You know,
Right.
I had a similar incident. Yesterday was tempted that in the past I would have given into really easy. And I'm not getting into specifics or details or anything like that. Other than like I was wrestling yesterday within myself because the flesh, the ego was like, no, do it. That's what I want.
Right. Right.
I, I want that. But I
Right.
knew, but now I was like, I was riding down the road and I was just speaking out loud to, my creator, my source, my origin, father.
Yeah.
And was like, I was just honest. I was like, my flesh wants to do this.
Right.
And I said, but my spirit does not. And so I just had this conversation with it. I was glad. I wrote it down in my journal, that I overcame that. I overcame that temptation to,
Right.
feed the ego. And I was super excited when I woke up this morning. But yesterday, it was rough for me, man. It was rough for a little bit yesterday evening and such. But it's
Well,
good
I'm
to
glad
share.
I was not the only one to have a rough day yesterday. Maybe been different wrestles, but
Yeah,
we're in
and
this
they
together.
are.
We are.
They are different wrestles, and that's something I've seen, and it's only ego that wants to do that. That says my wrestle or my problem is greater than yours,
Right.
but that's not
It's the
true.
same wrestle.
Right? It doesn't matter. It's still a wrestle,
Mhm.
and it could not smoking a cigarette could be just as big of a wrestle as the biggest wrestle anyone else has, and so the ego seeks to like compartmentalize the label. No, mine is greater, yours is less, yours doesn't matter, mine does, or whatever, and that's just not how it is. It's coming and meeting people right where they're at and realizing like, okay, even though like I've had maybe some bigger, if I'm in myself talking to myself,
Mhm.
maybe I've had some bigger struggles in life than this person, but maybe me being molested as a child is just a big a struggle as that person trying to quit cigarettes.
Right.
I mean, I know they're
So
not the
so this
same.
is well, but no, but I get it though. This is why, like in the Hebrew language, of course, I'm always going to bring it back to language. It's my passion. I can't.
Do it.
That's why the letter tet doesn't have a bias in it. It means to wrestle with the snake in the basket. Now, it's really about the seraphim message that is telling us that we share and live in a system of duality. And all of our wrestles and struggles have to do with that which is in duality of what we believe is right and wrong and good and evil and black and white, whether to smoke or not to smoke, whether to drink or not drink, whether to use drugs or not use drugs. I mean, you name it. It's the wrestle. It's the wrestle in the basket. And so there is no bias there because the language doesn't have a bias. It gives information, and information as truth is just that. It's just information. It's what we connect to it
Mm-hmm.
by what we have been programmed to look at. So I
Mm-hmm.
say that your wrestle and my wrestle is still a wrestle. We're still in the same basket of the world. We're still being drawn out of the waters of chaos, which is really Moshe being drawn out. He was in a basket put in, as an analogy, into this river, this flowing river, and he was drawn out, and then he was raised up in the courts and house of Pharaoh so he could learn the sacred languages and go through the initiation process as one of the children of Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
He was drawn out of that basket of chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ooh, I've been debating on whether to talk about this or not. I spoke
Before
with
you
you.
go there, before you go
Yeah.
there,
Okay. Go.
do you know what graduation is when you get out of the basket? It's the
You're gonna
next
tell
letter.
us.
It's Yod. Yod means power.
Yeah. Wow.
Power is given to you when you're drawn out of the basket of chaos, because
Mm,
it's the power, means, and direction, and it's directly connected to the Aleph, which is the strong leader. So power is given to you when you overcome your wrestle. When you're out of that basket and you're done wrestling, you then are given the Yod, and it's only given to those who give, so that you can give, because you
mm,
overcame your wrestle. And because you overcame it, you now have power to be able to share it and give it to others, because you learned
mm,
how to get out of that basket. And that's why oneness unity, because it's all about drawing in. So for me to share our experience, or you to share your experience, it's the power to draw others into oneness unity based upon our own struggles. And again, there is no bias. It
mm-hmm.
doesn't, my firecracker is bigger than your firecracker, does not exist, because there is no hierarchy. We're all the same, just different experiences. So I just wanted to finish that up, because the language has a journey in it. And so
Yeah.
wherever you're at, if you can identify with the letter, you know where you're at and you know where you're headed. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a wrestle right now, let me prophesy to you and say power is coming once you
Mm-hmm.
overcome the wrestle that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
Wow. So
So
what?
you said you were thinking about talking about something here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said initiation. And so that just brought something up in me, and you've talked about it privately. And before I speak any of this, I want to say, like, this isn't um, aimed at any individual. It's not at anyone. I'm talking about the whole, and basically the whole of, like,
Right?
westernized culture, the whole of westernized culture, and what I've seen versus studying into Eastern cultures, studying into Native Americans, indigenous people, stuff like that. So, the Spirit's showing me how, like, you talk about maturation and everything, but how there is, like, degrees to
Mm-hmm.
understanding. And what I see in Western culture is that somebody gets a revelation, somebody gets something, and what's developed is a course or a teaching material where people pay to come learn this knowledge. But really, that's kind of doing a disservice to that person, because they might not be ready for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I deal with people all the time that they want to be at the end, but they haven't gone through the steps per se. Like, they might be, and this isn't a shot at anyone, but they might be in, let's say, first or second grade still, and they want to go ahead and test out on a 12th grade level and have that information, but you're missing all the steps in between. So therefore, if you give them that information, cool, they got it, but they're not going to be able to do anything with it,
No,
you know,
no.
because it hasn't taken place inside. And when I talk with Dean, and, like, again, my research in the indigenous, this is why they've had, like, with the Hopi, they have different clans, and you initiate into each clan,
Mhm.
and you have to be a certain age to get into some of them. You have to have gone through certain levels and steps of wisdom, of learning, before you can get into this one. Because what happens is, and it's slight, it's ever so slight, but once you get that wisdom, and now you know how to manipulate energy, and you know how to do these things, it can easily turn into grata for self.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Well,
and
do you know that really with initiation, a lot of times some of these deeper esoteric teachings are not taught until someone, so just the age to let you know, is 40 years old.
mm-hmm,
Because dependent on the culture, there are certain things that you should have learned by then
right, yep,
that would give you the ability to have the maturation in order to enter into those things to help you with the rest of your journey.
mm-hmm,
And the languages are very much like that. Do I think that somebody can enter in under the age of 40? Sure, based on spiritual maturation. So I'm going to do a little side tangent on that, and then I want to go back to, because I think you're having something you want to dive in a little deeper, I think, or maybe that's it. But I have a feeling you want to go a little deeper, because I know you, my friend. You like to deep dive. That's why we've called these conversations a deep dive, because, you know, we're not interested in the surface element. We want to be able to dig deep, because that's why we're here, right? That's what we're here. We want the deep experience. We didn't sign up for the shallow one. In this lifetime anyway. So when I've been having some conversation about some people have chosen to not listen to the teachings anymore, because they see words that I'm sharing, and those words don't resonate with them, and it actually has made them feel bad. And the way it was presented to me was that when they hear these words, it makes them think that it's going to hurt other people's feelings. So they decided to stop listening to the message of what they were sharing, because they've listened to it for about a year now, and then they don't want to share it with anybody else, because they don't want to hurt other people's feelings based on words that I'm sharing. And one of them in particular, and I'm going to bring this up, is the letter Rosh. Rosh, in and by itself, in Paleo, it means the head. It means the head. Now, when you dive deeper in the language, every symbol is made up of letters, right? There's constituent letters that come together with their vibrational frequencies to create the symbol, the single symbol. You know, English isn't that way. Aleph is Aleph, right? Sorry. I'm so used to saying the Hebrew, I say the letters in Hebrew instead of English when I'm talking about English. That's so funny. I do that all the time. A, there we go. A in English is an A. It doesn't have any meaning. You know, you have to string it together with other letters to make a word, and then the people have to tell you the definition of what that word means. It's not the way Hebrew and Aramaic works. You can kind of figure out what the word is by looking at the letters themselves, by what they mean, right? And then digging deeper to see all the constituent letters to make up the symbol. And it's like, oh, so that's how they know what the words mean, because all of those have meanings to it. You know, you don't have to be taught. You just have to be taught the letter and the meaning of the letter. And then when they come together, it's like, okay, it's a story. Every single word is a story. Anyway, so Resh is spelled Resh Olive Sheen. Now, Resh Olive Sheen is a head who has fire. Think of the tongues of fire that sat upon their head. Tongues, flame language, Chaldean flame language, which was the language that was used in the time of Yeshua. It's called the flame letters, right? So it's fire, tongues of fire upon their head. It literally was the story of the letter Rosh manifesting upon their heads, which was a signal and a beacon that the people that had tongues of fire on their head understood the seraphim message and became ministers of the flame.
Wow.
Bereshit. Like if you want to know what I just said, go look at last week's Sabbath teaching about Bereshit and about the covenant, because that's what I shared at the very beginning, and that will make all the sense to the world to you, because fire was in the very first word of covenant in the beginning, the fire covenant. So they had fire on top of their head, but this word also means poor, destitute, and leader, chief, first, top, first fruit. So in duality, so what I say when I will share the Rosh, the letter Rosh, I will say the poor and the destitute, who were then raised up to be first fruit leaders. Now, if somebody says to me, all I hear you say is poor and destitute, I hear you say humble and teachable, I hear you say immature, I hear you say, and they are looking at all of these things, it's a projection. Because when I share, my heart is to always bring the resolve. I don't share these things to shame and guilt anybody or to make them think that they're lesser, because it's a spiritual journey. Guaranteed, if any of us stop and look at where we were at 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we could say that 20 years ago we were spiritually poor and destitute. And that's not negative. That's just the journey of spiritual maturation. And we do enter in as adolescents. The spiritual journey matches the physical journey. They're one and the same. They look like they're separate, but they're not. They're meant to be connected. That's why Nun, Vav, Nun. That's how you spell the letter Nun. It's a spiritual path that is connected to the flesh. That is the seed of life. It's your job to find it. It's your job to walk it out. It's your job to set your foundation, a strong base to stand upon, to produce an heir, which is royalty. That's your job. That's nobody else's. But you can't separate the two. They're not meant to. They're not meant to.
Right. Wow.
So when I share, please understand, if all you hear is things that are lesser than, that is the world, the words prophesying to you about your shadow of what you need to let the light come in to reveal. Because wherever you are at, if you're hearing poor and destitute, you're hearing humility, you are hearing adolescent, then that means that is how you see yourself. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just sharing the words. I'm just sharing the language. And it has no bias. I'm not judging you. The letters aren't judging you. They're trying to teach you something. They're trying to shed light on your shadow to reveal the real you so you can embrace you in your totality of being. Right. So that you can be your authentic self, not the mask you wear, not what you want people to see you as. It's reconciling both to go, I have potential of good and evil in me, but I am the tree of life.
That's right.
It's overlaid. Exactly. Bam. Or like you say, boom.
Yeah, boom.
Or like I would say, champagne.
That's right.
Anyway, take it from there. Take it from there. You were talking about initiation, and I just went into the rabbit trail of spiritual maturation.
No, I think that's beautiful, because you know what? A lot of tough conversations are going to have to be had here in the future by everyone. You know, I mean, think of the restoration. I'll just say, because of my own personal journey with the Native Americans and my journey with the Hopi. Think of the conversations that are going to have to be had with them alone, of what not even I didn't do anything to them. Nobody that's alive. We didn't come in and take the land, but people that looked like us and had the same skin color as us did. So there's healing, and there's hard conversations that are going to have to be set down in the circle of life and be talked about. You know, they're not, you know, they're not going to listen to people just coming in to evangelize or sell. So my point with bringing that up is again, not to attack anybody. I've had conversations with you, and I've wrestled with this stuff myself. I'm not saying that if you didn't write a book that you shouldn't get compensated for the time that you've put in to write that book. But I'm saying, when it comes to truth and knowledge that is really taken on a whole nother level, deeper into this wisdom and everything, I just feel it's so easy for us as a westernized culture to automatically put a price tag on that. But to say that it has value also is indicating that it has no value. And it does. It is valuable. But that person needs to be ready. You know, that's what got us kind of in this mess to begin with. If people know the Hopi story and what everything that happened, I'm not getting into it, is people gain this knowledge, but not in the steps that were supposed to have been laid out for them to get it. And then greed and pride, and it just fed the ego. And then what started out,
out of order. It was out of order. Yeah,
completely out of order. You know, and it's so easy, even though you might not have the intention set out, or one may not have the intention set out to be materialistic, to you know, showboat or anything like that. Again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. This isn't towards one person at all. This is generalized. I'm just, what me and you were talking, what your husband says, I'm broadsorting right now.
We're broadsorting.
If it happens to cut, then maybe it's something that you should sit with. If it happens to prick you, then maybe it's something you should sit with. If not, then just let it be, because this isn't finger pointing. Again, if I'm going to point a finger at anybody, it's going to be me first.
That's right. That's right.
But this is why, like, natives, they don't share stuff like that with just anybody, because there are stuff that is just sacred. It's sacred. And even Jesus growing up in his missing years, man, as I've read many books that talk about his missing years, but now, in which I would like to read a very short thing from the Aquarian Gospel today, because I find it fitting for what I'd like for us to talk about. You know, Jesus went into India. He went with the Buddhists. He went with the Brahms. He went down into Egypt. He went to Assyria, and he read these ancient, learned, and he taught. He was both teacher and student.
Yes.
You know, and so he had
Exactly.
to grow. He had to grow in his maturation and his understanding, and to being the anointed, the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can
Yes.
buy. It's not something
No.
you can pay for.
And again, what did he do? He gleaned from texts from
That's right.
all these other religions of the world, taking the cream of that which was the center source of truth in order for him to ingest it spiritually so that he could become it and then therefore speak it, because he was given the staff of authority because he became it.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm glad that you read that. You also like the Book of Urantia if you get into it, because the last third is about Yeshua's life and it goes into his travels as well. So it does validate the Aquarian Gospel, but it gets a little bit deeper in just who he was also traveling with. And it's amazing. So if you like that, jump into the Book of the Urantia and read the last third of it, because it's all about Yeshua's life and why he came and what he did, which validates, and you see it through and through with the language. That's why I'm grateful that these books came to me after I had spent 3 years in the language. So I didn't have something as a foundation to say, oh, right. And then it's twisting the way I see the languages. I spent 3 years in the languages first, and then these other books showed up. And I was blown away by all of the concepts that were in these other writings that were directly connected back to the Hebrew and the Aramaic. It had to be that way, right? It had to be that way, because spirit needs to lead. We don't necessarily want to be formed and fashioned by man and man's interpretation. Really, the whole point of who we are is to validate that which the spirit already shared. Because if it's the other way around, then it's manipulation.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Anyway, keep going.
Yep. This will get into, I've said what I wanted to say on that, or what I felt like Spirit wanted to say, but what I would like for us to talk, because we did last time, is to kind of finish up. I know me and you have talked privately about Yeshua and this, and Jehovah, and him having the title, you know, the Lord over the earth, because this is what the Hopis would call Masao. There is a guardian over this earth and of our development as seeds or souls or whatever you want to, however terminology you want to look at. There is a guardian over it. And the reason I wanted to read this a little bit, it's short, not very long, is what Jesus is saying to these. Spirit has been showing me, you know, for years now, the mind, because the problem's never been spirit, because that would indicate that there's some other spirit other than the one spirit. But Jesus made it really clear and said, no, there's one Father and there's one Spirit. There ain't many, there ain't others, there's one.
Right.
The problem's always been here in our carnal mind and this brain, in our thinking, in our thoughts. So if you'll let me real quick just read this.
Please.
I thought it was beautiful, but it's in the Aquarian Gospel in chapter 33, and I highlighted this because silent meditation. Jesus sat beside a flowing spring. It was a holy day, and many people of the servant caste were near the place. And Jesus saw the hard-drawn lines of toil on every brow and end. There was no look of joy in any face. Not one of all the group could think of anything but toil. And Jesus spoke to one and said, why are y'all so sad? It says you all, but I'm country, so it's y'all. Have you know happiness in life? The man replied, we scarcely know the meaning of that word. We toil to live and hope for nothing else but toil, and bless the day when we can cease our toil and lay us down to rest in Buddha's city of the dead. And Jesus's heart was stirred with pity and with love for these poor toilers. And he said, toil should not make a person sad. Men should be happiest when they toil. When hope and love are back of toil, then all of life is filled with joy and peace. And this is heaven. Do you not know that such a heaven is for you? The man replied, Of heaven we have heard, but then it is so far away, and we must live so many lives before we reach that place. And Jesus said, My brother, man, your thoughts are wrong. Your heaven is not far away, and it is not a place of mets and bounds. It is not a country to be reached. It is a state of mind. God never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. You are creators, and we make our own. Now cease to seek for heaven in the sky. Just open up the windows of your hearts, and like a flood of light, a heaven will come and bring a boundless joy. Then toil will be no cruel task.
I mean,
I
totally agree with that. Totally.
Given, our talks and everything the Spirit showed me, I was reading that this morning as I was just sitting here at my mom's having my morning tea. And I was like, whoa, dude, like such an awesome little confirmation there that, it's, and it backs up everything. Jesus saying, heaven's here. It's right now. It's at hand. You can grab it.
Exactly.
You can obtain it. The only thing keeping you from it is you, through
Exactly.
beliefs, through
Yes.
indoctrination,
Yes.
through lies, through external experiences,
Mm-hmm.
through the external world. So to finish kind of, I guess, maybe up the talking, maybe it might, maybe not finish it, is me and you've talked about Yeshua in pre-incarnate
Mm-hmm.
being from the first is the one who's guardian over this earth right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about that?
Well, to solidify, because we have shared about it before, but anybody who is joining us, the name Yeshua is the tetragrammaton. So if you guys don't know what the tetragrammaton is, it is a Greek word that means the four letters. And the four letters is Yod, He, Vav, He. You would know this in English. You would have heard it called Jehovah, even though there was no J until what, the 18th, I don't remember, 15th century, there was no J. So it wouldn't have been Jehovah. So you would have known it then maybe as Yahovah. But really it's Yahuwah. It's Yahuwah. And very vowel oriented, and it encapsulates the spirit breath, the spirit, the inhale and the exhale. Now, Yod He Vav He, when you read your English Bibles, you will see. Now, there is no Yod He Vav He in the New Testament, by the way. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So Yod He Vav He in your English Bibles would be translated as capital, all caps, Lord. So all caps, Lord, is Yod He Vav He. But you don't see it. It's like they didn't leave it in. They didn't do Y. Okay. Convert to English, Carrie. YHWH. Sorry. Very slow converting back. YHWH. That's how you would see Yahuwah if you were to do it in our English letters.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeshua's name is Yod He Vav He with Sheen in the middle. And Sheen is a representation of the flame or the fire of God. Right in the middle. And Sheen has three prongs to it. So if we're triune beings having, body, soul, or spirit, soul, and body, what the law of one would say a spirit, body, mind complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that is connected to the Sheen, because the fire is to come and connect to all three parts of our triune being as a complex being to unify it into one. So Yeshua is Yod He, Vav He, with the Sheen in the middle, which then is Yod He, Sheen, Vav He. Now, the reason why there is no Yod He, Vav He in the New Testament is because Yeshua came and manifested.
Mm-hmm.
He was Yod He Vav He as Yod He Shin Vav He in the flesh. And the entire New Testament is about what he did, why he came, and the message he was giving. Walking it out in his creation as God over the creation, as the overseer, as the seraphim messenger that came to show us how to live and how to be and how to experience, how to overcome the difficulties, the pains, the toils, by sharing a message that was all going to lead back to oneness unity. So instead of Yod He Vav He, we see Alaha. And I know you know that word.
Sure do.
Aleph Lamed He Aleph. There is no Yod He Vav He at that point, because Yod He Vav He became Yeshua. Yeshua came to bring forth the twin revelations that would reveal the oneness in God as us being fractals, because Alaha is the strong leader, teaching shepherd that reveals oneness. And it's translated as, there we go, God in the New Testament. Alaha. So I'm going to say it again. The strong leader, teaching shepherds that have the staff of authority that reveal oneness unity through the Mashiach, through the Christ anointing. And that's been translated as God. So there is no Yod He Vav He in the New Testament, because he manifested in the flesh. He came as the light to show us how to become the light, so that we could find the way of one. Because even in the writings, they took it out in English, because I found a couple verses that say the way of one, but they'll just translate it as the way and leave one out of it.
Yeah, they don't want you to know that. So Yeshua, Yod He Vav He, came into the creation that he was guardian of, seeing the maturation of the different fragments of the one and only being, but he still was a fragment of the one and only being himself, but he was charged with watching over the development of these as we learn the way of one, as we come into unity and oneness. So in that, this is why Yeshua in the New Testament always pointed people, no, you give your praise to the one eternal being, the wholeness of everything that is. Give your praise to that. This is why he said, I have to leave, because if he would have stayed, no one would have ever went inside themselves to try to find and become the anointed, the Christ themselves. They would have stayed and worshiped the man. This is why he said, I have to leave. It's better that I leave than if I stay. That way you'll look and you'll find it for yourself.
Exactly. Because we always tend to, we externalize everything, or I should say the ego externalizes everything.
Yeah.
And because we externalize everything, we actually, the ego is very lazy. Now, again, I'm speaking from a place of having no bias and no judging. And when I speak, I want to take both of these fingers. I want you to see this. I'm talking to me.
That's right.
Okay, I'm not pointing the fingers at you. I'm talking directly to me and my own ego that needs to stay in check. My ego is lazy. Okay, I'm going to try to start rephrasing things so that, well, it doesn't matter. My heart is concerned for everyone and where they're at. But if it pierces your heart, then that means that you need to listen to it, because there's a reason why it pierces your heart, because that's what the lamed does. It's supposed to pierce us, prick us, sting us, incite us, and goad us, because it doesn't want to leave us where we're at. It's wanting us to mature. It's wanting to take us a little higher, if we're willing to grow and mature. But if you don't, if the words that I say sting you and you say, boy, she's pretty rough, boy, she's a little blunt, well, that's only because you received it that way. I'm just sharing information with you.
So we could say that even too, like this, Carrie. If one takes offense when it's no fingers being pointed or anything, it's the exact same thing as the Pharisees and Sadducees we read about in the Bible. We can disassociate ourselves from religion. We can disassociate ourselves from a church building or a denomination or anything like that. But if truth is being brought forth, the spirit of truth is being brought forth in love and in kindness and no finger pointing, and we begin to act like those Pharisees, that's exactly what they did. They didn't look at it first. Be slow to speak, slow to anger. We didn't, and I have to do that. And I'm now getting to practice where I can do that. Whereas before I wouldn't. If you'd have said something to me and I even thought you were talking about me, I'd be all over your posts on Facebook, writing crap, It'd be no.
Me too.
It'd be. And I had some opportunities this week, and I want you to finish what you were saying, where that happened. I wrote out a post, and these people, I had a couple of gentlemen that never comment on my posts ever. I didn't even know they were my friends, to be honest with you. I didn't even know they could see my posts. And I wrote some controversial posts, and they put on there and didn't see what was really being said because of religious indoctrination and such. And it's okay. I was real gentle with one, and the other one, the Spirit said, don't even say anything. And I didn't. But in the past, the old Brandon, the ego Brandon that lived straight from the ego, I'd have been all over that like white on rice, man, and argued and called names. So it's maturity to be able to sit when something's being said and know that I don't have any idea what y'all are going through. So if I say something or anyone says something and it's pricking you, look at it. I get pricked daily. Exactly. I get pricked every single day where I have to look at myself internally and say, what is this showing about me? Instead of externalizing it.
Exactly. Because that's the easiest. See, that's why I said that ego is lazy, right? Because the ego just wants to project into everything outwardly, because then you don't have to do any work, right?
No.
It's everything is external. So the boogeyman is external, the political party is external, your boss is external, your parents, your spouse, your siblings, your kids. I mean, everything can be projected outwardly on other vessels, other fractals of you. You can project it outwardly because then there's no work involved. The work comes when you have to stop, slow down, take a look at the inside before you project outwardly. So Yeshua was always wanting to point them inwardly, right? And so here's I'm going to bring up another word, and this could be a trigger for some. But the ones that I trigger, they don't listen anymore anyway. And that's okay. They don't need to. I love them. I don't see them as any different. I don't see myself as a teacher. I don't see myself as anything other than a brother and a sister. We are all on the same playing field. Nobody has hierarchy. There is no rank above one another. We are all the same. We are nothing special, but yet we are.
Okay.
So I'm going to share this with you because Yeshua said he was the door. The door is represented by the letter Dalet. Dalet is spelled Dalet Lamed Tav. Now it's interesting because the root of it is Dal, Dalet Lamed, the door to instruction. It also means to be weak, feeble, thin, and poor. That's the root of it. Then all of a sudden there's a Tav added on the suffix side. So the answer and the resolve to you being weak, feeble, poor, and thin was something dangling, because that also means to dangle, something you need to connect to. You're supposed to connect to Father's covenant. The only way you get to Father's covenant is by going through your shadow. Then you become a door. So Yeshua had to face his own shadow in order to be the door, because he was a door of revelation to open these things up to you so you could begin to see that he was going to continue to point you on the inside. But he had to go because everybody was pointing externally that he had come. He was the Messiah. He was going to conquer Rome. He was going to deal with the religious Pharisees and the Sadducees that were oppressing the people. It was all about Yeshua. And he kept saying, no, go within. I am the way, the truth, and the life, but not the way that they wrote it. I am the way of one, which is the truth and where you find life. Not I am the way, the truth, and the life. He was a representation of that which he found and became. Hence why he was working in the Mashiach anointing.
That's right. The teachings.
One affinity. And they couldn't see it, and they couldn't see it, and they couldn't see it, and they couldn't see it. So even when Peter was saying, hey, I don't want you to go, get behind me, Satan, because your ego, your adversary in your head is getting in the way. I have greater things that have to happen because I need to go, because you guys are still not getting it. And I am a stumbling block to you. I am a stumbling block to you, and I need to be removed.
That's right. Wow.
Because the spirit, so here's the other part of Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh. It is mother and father. It is Yeshua plus Sophia. The spirit. Ruach. So when Yeshua manifested, he was there we go, Sophia. He was manifesting Sophia, which is a Greek word for spirit, was manifesting the feminine side as well, masculine and feminine, because the spirit is literally the god of action, right? Makes things happen. It's behind the scenes. It's the etheric side that we don't see, but it is everything. So Yeshua and Sophia came as Yod He Shin Vav He to bring forth that then birthed the spirit of truth.
Wow.
The spirit of truth is Yod He Shin Vav He that came to bring oneness unity, to represent the masculine and the feminine divinity becoming one, so it could be manifested externally. But because we externalize everything, because we stay in ego and we don't be led by our heart and our spirit most of the time, I'm not saying all, broad sorting here, that when we don't, we're living from our head, we're living from the adversarial component that will always see the outside man and want to lift and worship up the outside man, or the Buddha, or the guru. You know, if I sit in their teachings, why do you want to sit in their teachings? Why don't you just become the teachings? They don't need your worship. If you worship them, then you're just filling up their ego. And they're going to have to battle their ego now because you went and paid to go see them at a conference, to go sit in their space and breathe the same air. Really? I'm not diminishing the work, because everyone that has become enlightened has to do the hard thing. They've faced their shadow and they've rendered it clear. But if you're going to pay to go see a guru somewhere, or because you think you're going to get enlightenment from them, you know what they're going to do? They're going to speak in parables to you. You know what they're going to do? They're going to share things with you that frustrate you. They're going to share things with you that don't give you the answer that you're seeking, because you want the easy way, because you're approaching it through the ego instead of the heart. Listen to the message and let the spirit tell you what they're saying, not what their words they're saying. They make things difficult on purpose because it's not an easy work. We all, and people that have an issue with me saying that it's works, then I would look at it and say, could that be the ego religion then?
Yeah.
Because this isn't given to you. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a step-by-step, painstaking process, pushing a big-ass rock up a hill. And, you know, it'll roll over you and crush you sometimes too, especially if you get your ego in the way. But guarantee that little yod, when it's given to you, it means power, means, and direction. So you can push that stone, that Eben, Hebrew, Aleph, Bet, Nun, Father, Son. It's spelled Ab and Ben, Aben, to become Laban, which is a white stone, which means to be white, to be purified, to be instructed. The stone that has been instructed, the white stone with the new name, Laban Eben. It is the instruction of the Father and the Son who have become one, that have built themselves through the spiritual path. Lamed, Aleph, Bet, Nun. I just gave you a short version of what those Hebrew letters are. The instruction of oneness, where you build yourself on the inside through the spiritual path, through the seed of life. Laban, the white stone.
And that's really, you know, westernized culture that's done that, the hyper grace message and everything, and the egoic religion of, well, just wait on this one man, Jesus. And again, I want to say, you know, like, I feel people that are watching your videos by now are cool with this. But for anyone new that's made it this far, it's not trying to diminish Yeshua. It's not trying to not honor him and his teachings and what he came and what he did, and that's not what this is about. But he didn't ever want you to get hung up, which is why he left, on just worshiping him. And it's not about waiting on him. What he embodied, what he represented, needs to become in you, made alive.
Exactly.
This is what I was reading.
That's how we honor him.
That's right. That's how, if you want to truly honor him, then
become his message.
Become just like him.
Yeah. Become his message. See that you are one with the Father. Find oneness unity on the inside so you can manifest the Mashiach and be the light to the world. It is not one light that was sent. It's many lights. And we need to have the fire activated again. Bereshit, in the beginning, was the fire on the inside of the covenant. And guess what? The covenant were the sons, the builders. But the fire was taken out of them. The olive sheen was taken out of them, and they were left with covenant, brit. But they needed to become Badashit, the creators, the leaders, the first fruits that had the fire within them through the covenant. Because it's only through becoming the message that we can honor the man, Yeshua, who came as the flame, as Yod He Vav He Shin Vav He. Pick up his flame, become it, activate it. Let the world see that plasma light energy that is in you through that which you radiate, through the words that you speak and the deeds that you do.
Mm-hmm.
They
And
need
the
to
only
match.
way, yeah, and the only way that's gonna happen is through work. I mean, even in the English scriptures, it says what? Faith without works is
Is
dead.
dead.
So if you have faith and believe that you can become just like him, everything he was, you can be. Everything he said, you can say. Because how are you going to do greater works if you can't even do the same works? You can't. It's impossible.
Right.
So it does take work, but the outside external world in our Western culture has developed a lot of lazy folks. It's a have it your way generation. I can just pick up the phone and order whatever I want to. I ain't even got to get out of my chair. But
I
that's
don't have
not,
to make anything. It just is delivered.
yeah, it's not going to come like that. It's going to
No.
cost. It's going to
Of
cost. But
course.
the things that it costs you were the very things imprisoning you and hurting you and holding you down anyway.
Exactly.
But then you can learn to love them on the other side. This is your adversarial friend component that you talk about,
Yeah.
because that is your greatest teacher.
Yeah.
It is your teacher. It's like Willy Wonka. And at the end, you're going to be like, oh, crap, it worked for you the whole time? Yeah, the whole time. The whole freaking time. Hey, guy, the whole time.
Right. So the work is important. And see, the thing is, let's go back to money. Let's go back to cost.
Okay.
You do not value anything unless it costs you much.
Mm-hmm.
How do you treat a $5 pair of sunglasses versus a $250 pair of sunglasses?
I lost mine in the river.
Yeah, I've lost
But
mine before. I
I know
had
what you're saying.
prescription sunglasses stolen, and it made me laugh because they were prescription sunglasses. And I'm like, ha, sucker, you're going to get a headache. Of course, that
That's
was
right.
quite a few years ago when I didn't realize we were all one. But back then, I thought, you're going to get a headache. You stole my sunglasses that were $400 because they were prescription. You're going to wear them, and you're going to get a headache.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's that outside world kind of coming in and biting you, mother biting you. Like, oh, here's these sunglasses. I'm going to take them. Anyway. So
Squirrel.
this work aspect of it, if it doesn't cost us, then we don't value it. There is no value for it. Because when you get into this place of entering into oneness and you take the message, you take the fire and you allow it to cleanse out all of the stuff that the beast ego is keeping you from, so that you're subjecting it, so that you can have the tongues of fire on your head, which is a sign of authority that you've become a burning messenger. If you did work for it, you wouldn't value it. So therefore, it wouldn't be sacred to you.
That's
You
right.
wouldn't guard it. You wouldn't protect it. You would handle it as being casual. By the way, I just described what profane and holy is. Profane isn't the way we see it. It's a word that means common. And profane
Wow.
actually spelled, I'm hoping I'm getting this right. Tet mem he, I believe. No, that's Tomei. Yeah, Tomei. Tet mem he. I'm pretty sure I'm spelling it right. Tet is the wrestle with the snake in the basket. Mem is the waters of chaos. He is the revelation. So being profane is that we're common, meaning there's nothing, we assess words to it based on what the English translation said, but it basically is saying we're all common here together. We all have a wrestle. We all entered into the waters of chaos, and it's meant to reveal something to you. That's what profane means. You came in, chaos, you don't know anything, you're going to wrestle, you got to figure it out, but it's going to produce a revelation for you. When it produces a revelation for you, then you get set up as being holy. Dosh. Because what did you do? You compressed light in the circle of time. You found the narrow path between the light and the dark. You went through the door on the inward man where you delivered yourself from your weak and feeble and lean position, and you connected yourself to the covenant, pierced your heart within, and became the flame of God. That's kadosh.
Wow.
So you went from common as you became set apart as holy because you are the carrier of flame of God. You did your work. You went within. You did the hard thing. You allowed your heart to be pierced. And now you are set apart as holy because you guard and protect the journey that you went on so that you can be a minister of the flame. Now,
Wow.
Shemesh. Shemesh is the word for son, and it also means minister, to minister. Sheen, Sheen. You'll love this. There's spell Shem. What is Shem? You were sharing that a week ago, 2 weeks ago. You were seeing that it was the word that meant honor, authority, and character.
That's right.
Shem. Okay. Sheen, Mem, Sheen. One who has honor, authority, and character and is of the flame is Shemesh, the minister of the sun. S-U-N.
Wow.
It is also the name of the center candle of the menorah. It's called the servant candle because it lights the rest of the chakra, and it's a representation of your heart. So when you go through this process, you have a flaming heart. You are a minister of the flame that then becomes the light of the world because you become an illuminated menorah in the holy place as the set apart kadosh.
Wow.
Now, add one more thing. Ruach HaDakudsha is the spirit of holiness. We know it as the Holy Spirit. We flipped it. But in Aramaic, if you were to translate it, it's the spirit of holiness. And I just explained to you what set apart is versus common. The Ruach HaDakudsha is the spirit. Ruach is the word for spirit. It means breath. It has an added aleph. The aleph was added. It wasn't part of the root. So the spirit leads you into oneness. Then you have the word Dakudsha. Dalet is added in front of Kadosh. So the spirit of oneness leads you through the door of the inward man, which will then lead you into holiness because you've been set apart as one. You are no longer common. You have holiness in you, and it was the spirit that led you. It's not the Holy Spirit, it's the spirit of holiness because you went through the work and the deed of your own hand through the spirit to take the path, the way of one, and manifest it in your life. Because the only way that's manifested is if we can tame the beast ego and subject it so that we can be the head on our shoulders, Christ, the head of the body, the Mashiach. It's not Jesus that's sitting on your head or in your head. It's the anointing that you manifest by the work you do because you go in on the inside and you deal with your shadow. So I want to share something with you. I was going to share this and do it on Zoom, but I'm going to do it right here because this is totally connected. But I'm going to set this up first. I want to talk about the worship because you were sharing, we were talking about before when we were having a private conversation about did Jesus really want us to worship him?
No.
Right? That was kind of the question. Did he want us to worship him? We've already talked about that, but we need to look at the word worship here really quick. I'm not going to go in deep, but I want to share this with you because the word worship in its root is, I actually have it pulled up. I have it on Strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a screen share and I'm going to take us there. And I'm not going to go deep. We're not going to do this letter by letter 45-minute thing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get lost in that. So we're going to take a look at what this word means. So when we take a look at the word, it is Sheen Chet He. Sheen again is the fire. Okay, I'm going to highlight and see it. So Sheen is the fire. Chet is the letter that means separate, but it's also the esoteric hidden meaning the letter of life. And then we have the He that reveals. So the fire that comes that you were once separated for, but you will find life and it is going to reveal something to you. Now, we can see that they say it's to bow down. Let's go here a little bit further. To bow down. I'm going to use this a lot. By the way, notice here where it says forms and transliterations. Look at how many different spellings there are for worship.
Wow.
You see all this? Okay. When they throw a word worship to you and it's in English, you don't see all of this. Worship in its root was sheen, het, and the letter hey. But look at what else was added. The bet hey was added on the front. Oh, I can't highlight it. But the bet hey was added on the front. There was a tav in the middle, and then a vav yod, tav yod on the suffix. Those all have meanings. This is why I like to study the language, because all of this is saying something. It's sharing something with you. So the reason why I wanted to share this, other than just showing you all the forms of the word worship, if you're not getting, look at that. Look at all of those. They all have different meanings. I know, right? So to depress, to prostrate, especially reflexive in homage to royalty or God. That's what they're saying that worship is. But when you begin to take a look at this and you see that there is reverence here, reverence means that you are giving honor and deep respect. Deep respect. And when you look at that, the letter hey, by the way, the letter hey has to do with that which is hidden within you. This is deep respect for that which you do not know yet. And it is directly connected to your shadow side. I want that to connect.
Go back down, Carrie, to the bottom where you, after you scrolled over all the different meanings of the word worship, I saw something in there in that definition that you were reading that I thought was pretty interesting. It says right there, bow down, but in there is, now you could think of that as the true, but I see that as the self, as the ego, the one that thinks I, me, the individual. So you're bowing down the ego to that which is true.
Exactly. So what you just said, this hey that is in the root word is the revelation of the true you, which what is manifesting in your life right now, what people see is your ego. This is your shadow, which isn't seen, that needs to be brought to light. When we give honor and reverence into worship, we are giving reverence to that which we do not know. We externalize it as God, because that's what the ego does. But really what this is saying is bowing down to the self, the part of you that you don't even want to look at, your shadow.
Wow.
Because we're meant to give reverence to our shadow. We're not meant to not look at it. It's part of us. It's the dark side. But the thing is that when you look at the shadow, man, anybody that wants to join the Zoom session, this is connecting like incredible today because of the verse I'm going to be sharing at 1:00. This is connecting to that, by the way. And of course, the Spirit's working like that. But this is the side that we need to connect to, because this is where the greatest treasure lies. And what I mean is that if we do not find oneness within us, we are not going to connect our light and our dark together to find the treasure of who we are, the true wealth and the true treasure, by rendering it clear. Because when we render it clear into oneness unity, the light and the dark, because we were divided, we shared that before, Genesis 1:4. When we bring it into oneness is when the true revelation of who we are manifesting through the Mashiach, the Christ anointing. That's where your true wealth and treasure lies. So if you're looking for treasure and you're not willing to look at your shadow, you are never going to experience the true wealth and riches that are as you. And that's what makes us spiritually poor and destitute, because we're not willing to look at the shadow, and we want to project it on everyone else. When it's our own shadow, and we're prophesying to ourselves, you need to deal with your shadow, need to deal with your shadow. You're wanting wealth and riches. You want the Mashiach anointing. You say this and that, but you're not willing to deal that. So you keep projecting this on everyone else. And when it's trying to get your attention because you're illuminated, and every increment of light that you receive, a new shadow is going to be revealed, because that's how duality works. So if you're seeking illumination and new revelations, just understand that you're going to have more shadow work to do, because that light is meant to reveal the dark, the shadow in you. Okay, I'm going to show you. This is what I'm going to take into, and I got a little quick PowerPoint that I'm going to show us. I was going to wait for the Zoom meeting, but I got a lot more I got to talk about in the Zoom, and it'll just get bottlenecked. And it's like dot connecting here, light speed. I mean, woo, man, I'm feeling it this morning. It's awesome. Maybe that was because of everything yesterday. So the very first time that this word is used, by the way, for worship is in Genesis 18:12. So the storyline, the narrative is when Abraham saw the three angel messengers that were coming to him and Sarah when it was going to be prophesied that they were going to have a son. So this is Abraham. So in mechanical, so he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, three men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran and met them at the door of the tent, and he bowed himself to the ground. Now, look at how this morphed. There used to be a hay. There's no hay, but there's a tav in the center. This is the symbol for covenant. Now, connecting to what I was sharing with Bereshit, the covenant of fire. Now, these two form the word for foundation. So he found the covenant of fire, and it was placed within him. Shin Tav is at the root and the heart of this word, and anything that is in the root of a word, because of the definition of leb, which is the Hebrew word for heart, it means the center of anything. So the center of this word, because look, we have a vav yod on the right, we have a het yod on the left. So we've got 6 letters, right? The center too makes up the word for foundation. The fiery foundation, which is the covenant that is found within the heart. And what did that do? It bowed himself. It was what you were just saying about subjecting the self. So when these messengers came, there was no ego in the way. He had bowed his ego because he was ready to receive the message. And to the ground, this is the word that they translate for earth. Or is the first 2 letters, and it means light. Light, the path that brings revelation. So because we subject ourselves, we put the self under our feet, we have a strong foundation based upon fire and the covenant within. Through humility, we bow our ego down to the ground so that we can receive light that will raise us up from being spiritually poor and destitute as the immature. I'm just going to say it like it is, because we were all there one point, and to say that you weren't being truthful, because it is to light your path and journey to bring revelation of that which is hidden. Your shadow. So that you can become one. One light, one leader, one head, one first fruit, one chief, one. And that's the very first time that the word worship is used. And it has a tav in the middle, connected to your heart. And I find it interesting, the word before for tent, look at this. I love this. We have 2 hays and we have an aleph lamed. So we have the revelation that is going to bring forth oneness, unity, strong leader, that is going to be revealed through the teachings to your tent. Our flesh suit is our tent. Our flesh suit is not who we are. We are spirit beings. We are of light. We are of love. We are of a frequency. We are eternal beings. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. So the strong leader teaching shepherds who are God, because that's God, we are fractals of that. And we're being revealed as that in our tents. If we humble ourselves and bow down to that which we do not know, that is going to bring forth life and light as the first fruit leaders that found the spiritual path that they had to hunt and chase after, that is going to reveal the darkness within them so that it can be rendered into one.
Yep.
That's the first time worship is sent. So when you look at that, so if that's the very first time that the word worship is used, and it's like setting precedence, and this was the scriptures that Yeshua saw, do you think he would want us to worship him after what I just shared with you as the foundational word of what worship is? Just by the language? Not at all. He's saying, find the fire. Allow it to be your foundation through the covenant that was established at the beginning, Bereshit, so that you can find life. But you're going to have to connect to mother, and you're going to have to connect to father in order to do it, because that is where the flame comes from. Mother and father are Yod-He, mother, Vav-He, father. And it's the fire in the middle that connects to our heart so that we can find the covenant of one love, of one fire, so we can have the fireplace back within us, so that we can be the true ministers of the flame that are servants of the sun, that then become the light of the world. So, as you're thinking about that, I'm going to show you a PowerPoint presentation. It's not going to take long. I shared it with Regina because it's connecting my husband's compass teachings. So think of that. Keep that in your mind. The compass, going to the right. Okay. Very important, because I needed this as a dot connect. All of a sudden, this visual image, this happened like on Thursday morning, and all this visual imagery came into my head, and I'm like, whoa, I'm connected to what my husband's saying. This is so amazing, because he was saying, but until it goes from your head into your heart, you can't activate it. It's like I can process it up here, but I'm processing it through my ego, right? I'm processing it through my intellect. But you have to process it first through the intellect so you can focus on it, meditate on it, so then the seed of that can drop down into your heart and activate the flame, because then you become, right? So
Beautiful.
Now let's take a look of, and I'm just sharing, I am not telling you guys anything. I'm sharing my journey with you. This is what I found that is what I needed to do to activate me. It may be a different activation for you, but I see that meditation that happens, I need to get that off the screen. I'm sitting here and it's got right in front of our face. Sorry. Sometimes I just laugh at myself. Most of the time I laugh at myself. All right. So we need to be able to get it out of our head and put it into our heart so we can activate it in our hands and our feet. Because that's the power that allows us to do and be in the world, to be the light of the world. It's not meant for us to just become and then sit at home and hide away. It's meant to share the light, just like Yeshua did. Is it hard? Yeah, because you're walking in humanity. And this core, the spiritual core, you will always have with you, because we're all in that place of maturation. But we need to share it. So I want to show something with you that the Spirit shared with me, and we can finish up with this. And this is called, it's the Vitruvius man, okay? We're going to talk about the Vitruvius man. Now, everybody knows this is a different rendering of it. We've seen Michelangelo's, or was it Newton's or Michelangelo's? One of them, the Vitruvius man. Who did it? I want to give honor where honor's due. Somebody in the chat room will put it up of who drew the Vitruvius man. It's escaping me right now. But when we take a look at this, I want to show you what Spirit was sharing with me to connect to the compass. In the beginning, there was light. That was the first thing that was created. There was light, right? Because darkness was a cross, and then light. Let there be light. Well, light was created, and light was Elohim. And then we became divided into the light and the dark. So I've established that. We've talked about that for a couple of weeks now. Go see Genesis 1:4, the whole breakdown. It explains it. It shows it. This isn't conjecture. It was what was written and penned for us to understand. Because when the Father said, I desire that you have the knowledge of Elohim instead of that of sacrifices, he was wanting us to understand that we are Elohim, that we are fractals of Elohim. We are the gods and goddesses that created this world, created the mess, and we're going to resolve it by resolving this duality within us of the light and dark. So the man was divided. Elohim was divided into the light and dark. Now, this is the blue that you can see here is a dark blue and a light blue. This is the symbol, the paleo symbol for the letter Kuf, which is right before the Resh, which is interesting because if the Resh has to do with being a first fruit leader, the Kuf comes right before it. The Kuf is a symbol of the sun at horizon. Part of it is illuminated, the other is hidden. And right at the horizon, there's a line, the line between the light and the dark, the narrow path that we must walk between the light and the dark while we're in this world, because it's connected to the sun. Do you want to minister? Do you want to be in ministry? Then you better become the Shemesh. Because if you don't have the flame of God, you're not going to be a true minister of light and love. Because both the fire of mother and father have to come and deal with your waters of chaos. Sheen of mother, chaos waters on the inside, sheen of father. The sun, the fire has to come in and deal with the waters of chaos on the inside of you so you can become a minister. So you have to walk the fine line between the light and dark. Find the middle path between the two, which is the narrow path that few find. But when you listen to Ken's compass teaching, I want you to take a look at this here. You see the blue line? I'm going to change it here. Now, that movement of counterclockwise took you from the dark towards the light, correct? So if you're starting at the dark, you're taking the right-hand path, which is bringing you into the light. And when you start in the dark is because you're born and you're completely ignorant. You know nothing. You have no idea. You know nothing. You have to learn everything so that you can unlearn it, so that you can become it and then unbecome it into oneness. It's all purposed. It's not just a chaotic journey of nothing like, oh, I'm filling myself up with stuff so that I can empty myself out. No, that's exactly the process of it, because this is how we learn. Mm-hmm. So start out in the right-hand path, and it takes us down into the southern point of the compass. But there's something that we need to see here. So when we talk about this, and you've heard us say that you need to go into the light so that you can go in the darkness, right? Mother's teaching takes you into the light. It tames the beast to get you ready to be the bride so that you can enter in to being the betrothed of be truth, that you can go into the dark. And in my mind, this is what I think. Oh, so we're going to go like this compass needle, and we're going to go all the way around like a hands on the clock, and we're going to go full circle. We're going to take our light into the dark, right? That's what at least that's how I saw it. Yeah. And then through the process of inculcation, we just go round and round and round and round until we need to learn what we need to do. So hands of a clock that run the opposite way, which is because we're in an opposite system of going clockwise when everything runs counterclockwise, and we're having to reset it because this inverted verse runs clockwise and we need to go counterclockwise, entering into the light to enter the dark. And so what we see in the system of duality is this. The heavens declare the glory. So we look up at the moon, and we have phases of the moon. If you are stuck in the system of duality, and you do it the way I was showing you with going that all the way around, taking the hand that swings all the way from the light into the darkness, you go round and round and round, you're looking at the moon phases. This is the lesser light. When there's too much light, the darkness has to increase. When there's too much darkness, the light has to increase. This is inculcation. This is like lifetime after lifetime, light after lifetime. So if you're waiting for good to triumph over evil and to beat evil, guess what? As soon as there's too much light, the dark pushes back. That's the way duality works. You are never going to get rid of it. And if you think that by increasing light in you is going to get rid of your dark shadow self, it doesn't work that way. Because that dark is just going to push back.
Wow.
Now, this is what was the dot connect for me. This is funny because I'm putting a dot on here now. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, dark light, I get it. I got to deal with my shadow self. So again, I'm still thinking I got to take all of my light into the dark. I don't really want to enter into the dark because that means I walk away from the light and I'm going to have to go into the dark, but I'm supposed to take my light there. But here's what the reality is. If you find center point, if you find the narrow path between the light and the dark, this is what is really happening. You are 2 points. Now watch the bottom dot. Watch the bottom dot. Don't forget the top one, but watch the bottom one. As you are moving in the degrees of light, you are also encompassing the darkness at the same time. Because you're 2 points. You are the light and the dark. So as you enter into the light and you increase in light, you are also showing and revealing your shadow at the same time.
Wow.
Because you're connected to both. You found the center path. So if you do it the way I thought before, I'm increasing in light. Well, guess what happens with the increase of light? The dark increases. Do you see that? Here, the light is increasing. Too much light. Now the dark is increasing. Too much light. the dark has to increase because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to recognize that I am 2 points. I am light and dark. I found the narrow path in between. So every increment of light that I have is going to be connected to an increment on the opposite side of the compass that is of the dark. So every step of illumination and new revelation I get is meant to show the darkness that's within me so I can face my shadow.
Wow. That's beautiful.
I had to see that. And so when I saw it and I'm talking to my husband about it and I'm thinking, I'm like, wait a minute here. I said, is this what I'm seeing? Is this what you are saying? And he goes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because I don't know if he's shared with the ones that have released yet, where he talked about 2 radiuses and that it's an arc of light. 2 radiuses make up the diameter of a circle. So you have the radius light of mother, the radius light of father. You are connected in the middle as the flame of God. You are connected to the light and dark. And as the light is increasing, so is the dark, but they're in balance with one another because it's 2 arcs of light that are connecting it. Every revelation, every new bit of light that you take in is going to share and show you your shadow of the opposite nature so you can render it clear. So for any of you that are seeking illumination, realize illumination doesn't come without a cost. The cost is you have to find what the shadow is on the opposite side of it so you can render it clear and neutralize it. So whenever you get a new revelation, expect that you're going to have something show your shadow. It's going to come. And it's going to be a different fractal of it so that we can bring it back into neutrality so that we're no longer divided. We can actually become one who is a strong leader, teaching shepherd that has a staff of authority that reveals oneness because we became it. So we allowed every new fractal of illumination, new information of light that has no biases. We just have biases. And it is meant to reveal the shadow of you so that you can find out who you really are, not the mask you wear. To see the potential of good and evil in rendering it clear so that you become the tree of life. That then becomes and is crowned with light, Keter. By taking the narrow path, the middle path between the 2 poles of mother and father, finding the way into become one spiritual leader over yourself, the Rosh in the proper order, no longer having the ego sitting up here, but you as the divine nature as you are, without your ego, without your mask, now having full leadership and sovereignty over your vessel that has been given a crown of light.
That's right.
Because now you've become the Shemesh. Now you are a minister of the sun, and there is no darkness in turning in you anymore. Because we only deal with darkness when we live in the system of duality. When we rise above the duality system, all there is light. And all there is love. And there's no duality. There's no bias there. It just is information of love and light and truth. Amet.
That would be then in Revelation where it talks about right at the end, when those that come into the New Jerusalem, there is no more darkness. It's just light, just like you said.
No duality anymore because we rendered everything clear. And it is the wife who has made herself ready. The word for wife is Nun Tav Tav Aleph. And it's so, see this? It's like, I'm like, it's so amazing. Because Aleph Nun Tav by itself is the code for the word that became flesh. And we know that's Yeshua Sophia, the word that became flesh. So Aleph Nun Tav is the code for that. So when you see Aleph Nun Tav, it's the Aleph Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. You would know it as Alpha Omega. That is the spirit, the seed of life that is placed within the vessel. That has become one. Then when it becomes Aleph Nun Tav Tav Aleph, you take the covenant of the mother and you take the covenant of father and you bring them on the inside of your being. And then you're given the Aleph on the suffix. So now you have mother as one, father as one, the seed of life through the twin covenants that now made you the wife. No longer the bride, you are the wife who made herself ready. And that takes work. Serving, abed, bed. If you guys saw, I think I released it, maybe I didn't, but about how we all work and serve. Dependent on the pole you hold, negative or positive, we're all serving the one infinite creator. And you cannot discount the dark side because you were divided into light and dark. And I just shared with you, those fractals of light are to bring it into the darkness so that you can find oneness again and marry the two together. And if you just look at it as energy, just look at it as masculine energy and feminine energy. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to, oh, I don't want to look at my dark side because it's evil. No, it's just a different energy signature that you're bringing together instead of dividing it so it can all become light. Because remember, whenever you bring light into darkness, the darkness is chased away, right? It becomes part of the light. There is no darkness. So when you take these two that have been split into the light and into the dark, as soon as the light comes in and they merge together, that's why there's no more darkness, because light encompasses all. It illuminates everything. It absorbs the shadow and it becomes one light, not a divided light, not a light and a dark, one light.
Yeah. I got this, Carrie, that I'd like to share real quick, and then I'll hand it back to you. Let you say whatever you want, and because I'm sure you're going to want a little break before your Zoom going on that.
I'm going with Regina at 12:30, but it is a break because it's just my friend and I, so it's fine. So share what you need to share. I'd like to hear you. I talked a lot.
It's cool, man. It's awesome. That's why I love that we do these, because it's raw, it's real. We don't come pre-scripted. It's just whatever, man. Whatever's going on, and I love the ones that are really like that. But when you're talking about the two becoming one, what brought up to me, and I think the most perfect example that I've seen thus far of this, is if anyone's ever seen Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
At the end of it, you got the mystics and the Skeksis. They are one being, which would have been the Elohim, but you don't know that until the end. And when the crystal is healed, these mystics and the Skeksis come together. The light and the dark come together. There is no more dark. And now you see the being that was there from the beginning before it was split.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. And that, to me, depicts what you just said perfectly. Another thing that I wanted to say, and then I'm going to hand it on over to you, let you finish and carry us off, is when you talk about the work, what the Spirit brought up into me was Kill Bill, the movie Kill Bill. And any other kung fu movies and stuff like that. For any student that wants to come in, right, they don't just pay money and get a certificate. Most of the time, they start out, carrying jugs of water, 2,000 steps down the mountain and up the mountain 4 times a day. And why do they do that? Why do the teachers do that? To totally destroy and shatter that person's ego. How bad do they want it? Oh, you feel that you're better than this? What? Because you kicked that person's ass, or you kicked that person's ass, so now you just can walk up in here and do it? No. The teacher does it to the student to totally shatter the ego. And how bad do you really want it? Because if you want it, I want it bad enough where I'll pay $2,000 to get it, but I'm not really willing to go internally and do my work and face my shadow and all this other crap. Then it's not a shot at anybody, but you're not deserving of it. You're not ready yet. You're going to have to spend some more time.
Yeah. That's why the Bet Tov, that means daughter, it's one who has built the covenant. And Bet Tov not only means daughter, but it means the worthy and deserving. Because you put in the effort to build yourself through the covenant, and it took steps. You had to be willing to take the light to illuminate the shadow and do your shadow work. Because really, if we don't love our shadow, we are never going to manifest unconditional love, right? Because we're only wanting to love through conditions our good light side. And we want to reject the dark side of us when we're both. So until you learn to unconditionally love that shadow side of you, the things that manifest that are the real you, like when you just get a little bit too much pressure, the real you is going to show up. Hey, guess what? That's what happened to me yesterday. And it was revealed to me, the light work that I had done with my shadow, so that what was being presented through the pressure was that of unconditional love. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm humbled by it, because I saw the work that I put in for the last 5 years with the sacred languages and doing all of the really hard, crappy work that nobody wants to do, slogging up the mountain, 2,000 steps up and 2,000 steps down and hauling water. But it was worth it. It was worth every step, and it was worth every tear. And it was worth every moment that I was angry and ticked off and at that shadow side when it would rear itself, because I learned to love me, all of me, unconditionally, and just realize that it's experience. Because then what people can see is the real you, because you're not afraid of your shadow anymore. You're not trying to mask it. You mask it with too much light, then when the real shit hits the fan, guess what's going to show up? All that dark. That's what happens. You spend too much time in your light, then the pressure comes, and all that's going to be seen is your dark shadow side, unless you render it neutral into unconditional love. And that's how it works. So put a little pressure on someone, you're going to see how much work they've done or how much work they haven't done. And that is broadsorting. And if it pierces you, then that's something that you need to take up with the spirit. Because I'm not judging you. I'm saying I'm sharing truth with you, and truth just is. It's not, and I'm sharing it through my experience. I'm not telling you anything. This is what I've experienced. Your experience might be different, and I embrace your journey. But this is what I have been shown and what I've seen through other people and what I've seen in the language. So I did want to make a comment before I go. I saw someone, Anders was talking about the holy city, the New Jerusalem. And I want to end it on this, because we're talking about the light going into the darkness. In the New Testament, some of you that have been listening for a while will know, you've heard me say this before. Jerusalem in the New Testament, most of the time, not all the time, because processing. Jerusalem is written as Le'orshalem. It's not Yarushalayim that is in the Old Testament. It's Le'orshalem. It's a lamed plus the word or plus the word shalom. Lamed is the teaching staff of authority, the rod of the teacher, one who has been taught, one who teaches, one who is compiled, who was brought together, unified, learned, studied, has knowledge. And then it's the word or, which is the word for light. And it's Aleph Vavresh, not Aleph Resh. It is one who has learned the way of one that pierced their heart. Heart chakra is activated. They were raised up from being poor spiritually, poor and destitute. If it pierces, please go within and see why that phrase is piercing you, because it's meant to. The spiritually poor and destitute, in order to raise them into be a first fruit leader, so they could become light, literally the word manifested as light, and then shalom, which is the root word we get for shalom, which is peace. And it is Shem, those who have honor, authority, and integrity, because they learned on the inside. And it means to be complete, to be safe in mind, body, and state, to be friendly, and to reciprocate. So Jerusalem, as vessels of light, are those who are the teachers that have the staff of authority, that became the light. They found the way of one. They pierced their heart. They raised themselves up. They completed the journey. They are of the name of the living fire and the water, with instruction on the inside, that have now completed the journey. They are friendly. They're going to reciprocate friendliness to you. And they're completed, and they walk in peace, bringing forth the instructions of light. That is Jerusalem. That is the bride who becomes the wife that comes down as New Jerusalem, because she prepared herself.
And beautiful.
That's what she brings. So
that's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that, Carrie. I enjoyed today's talk.
Me too. Thank you for letting me share my testimony at the beginning. I'm still going to be processing it, and I'm still probably going to have tears, because I still got to work through some of the trauma of it. It's not all the way worked through yet. I can feel it. It's like my spirit's saying, you need to shed a few more tears on this. You're not done yet. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'll just do it later. Nobody needs to see my snotty nose. It's not pretty.
We've all seen it before.
And you still come back to see this face when she snots and she cries. Oh, because we're just all fractals of one another. We've all done it. We've all had snotty noses. We were actually born as kids and as children, right? We all have snotty nose at some point in our life.
No way. You're gonna get out of here.
I know, right? Get out of here. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Well, Brandon, thank you for this. I look forward to it. I want to do it again next weekend, just because I know there's a lot more topics that we haven't discussed. And yeah, I love when the Spirit just allows us, you know, when we let the Spirit lead.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's heart
That's how I'd
centered.
like to. That's how I'd like to keep it. You know, I know in my mind, because I kind of can get agenda oriented and be like, okay, well, we got to work it out like synchronistically, like, you know, step by step. Let's
I
go all the way
know.
from Genesis to
I
Revelation.
know.
But I love how it unfolds too, and it's always much better when we just remove ourselves out of the equation and let the Spirit do what the Spirit wants to do. It's always
Yep.
going to be better than anything I could do anyway. So
Well, yeah, because then it gets the freaking ego out of the way. You know,
yeah.
it's so funny. Let go of my ego. That's so funny. I just got that picture. Let go of my ego, right? Ego waffles.
You know, on my old YouTube channel, I actually did a video called "Lego My Ego," and I was talking about the ego.
Well, maybe that's why I just saw it, because it was connected to you. I don't know, because I just saw it. I was like, let go of my ego. And I was like, oh, how funny. So I don't know. It
Yeah,
popped up in
I
my
never
head. So I
share.
did share it.
I never share that channel with anybody because it was like I should, but it's not active. I don't do anything with it anymore, but it's still there on YouTube. But that was like craziness right before I left. But yeah, I did. I have a picture of an Eggo waffle, and it says "Lego my ego," and I was talking about the ego.
I love it. I just want to do a real quick shout out to somebody, because we have some people that are joining us from Australia, and right now it's 5:30 a.m. and I have another person on here that joined us earlier, and she knows who I am. I'm not going to really point her out too much, but you might have seen her. But anyway, people are joining us from Australia right now, and it's really early. So, Di, you just entered in. I'm glad. Please watch this later. But if you want to, you can jump into our Zoom video, which is going to happen in a half an hour, and you can join that live. And all of that information is on the Facebook page. Just look in the description box, and you'll have everything you need if you want to join in that for more information that is going to tie in exactly with what Brandon and I were discussing today. So if you missed this because you just woke up and it's 5:30 a.m., it's fine, because I will do a recap, so you're not going to really just jump in. But this whole thing that Brandon and I were talking about today leads into the verse that I'm going to be dissecting letter by letter. And hopefully it'll
Cool.
be just as wonderfully spiritually led as I feel like today was with you, Brandon. So thank you for joining with me and me joining with you. I'm glad that we're doing this. I love you, my brother.
Yeah, love
Namaste.
you too. Namaste.
Shalom.